This is a video lesson for lesson 1 of our unit on angles and planar figures. Lesson 1 learning target is I can identify and draw points, lines, line segments, rays, and angles, and also to recognize them in various contexts and familiar figures. This lesson is going to be all about defining all of these different math terms that we have here in our learning target, defining and looking at how we can draw and name these different figures. So let's go ahead and get started with our first term here. So the first term we have for this lesson is a point, and a point is an exact location. So pretty straightforward here. A point, like I have down below here, is just like a dot, and it represents a specific location on a flat surface. So I have 2 points right here, and typically we label points with letters. So this first point right here, I can label it with an A next to it. Now this is point A, so point A is right here. And so I can also label this other point with a different letter, B. So we have point A right here and point B right here. So both of these points represent different locations on a flat surface. So pretty straightforward there with the idea of a point, just an exact location. Now, if we move down below, we can look at our next term, which is a line segment. And you can see that I already have my points set up from the previous problem. So we have point A right over here and point B right here. And so what we're going to be doing with these 2 points is creating a line segment. A line segment is part of a line, so it's just part of a line, and it has 2 endpoints. So that means it stops at 2 points. So in this case, the endpoints are going to be point A and point B. So to create a line segment, I'm going to create a straight line that goes from point A all the way to point B. And so since this line ends at point A and point B, we consider this a line segment. And we name a line segment based on its endpoints. So the endpoints of this line segment are A and B, so we go ahead and write those down. And when we have a line segment, we put one flat line above it. And so there's nothing on the end, so the flat line above the endpoints is how we label a line segment. So we would read this as line segment AB. So that's a line segment right there, part of a line with 2 endpoints. So moving forward here, we are going to talk about a line. So a lot of people might be a little confused, thinking like, well, isn't a line and a line segment the same thing? Well, they're not. There's actually some big differences between the two. The biggest difference being that a line is an endless straight path. So a line segment, like we have down here with line segment AB, stops at these 2 endpoints. But a line does not. So a line is actually going to go on forever and ever and ever. But we don't actually draw it going on forever and ever. I'm going to show you how we draw a line and how it's different from a line segment. So I'm going to put another point out on the plane here. I'm going to label this point C. And I'm going to create a line that's going to go through point A and point C. So there we have a line that goes through point A and point C. And to show that this line goes on forever and ever and ever, we're going to put some little arrowheads pointing on the end of these. So when you see a line will always have these little arrows that indicates that that line's going to continue going in this direction forever and ever and ever. Now clearly we can't draw it going on forever, so we put those little arrows on the end to show that it's going to keep moving. So to name this line, we're going to do something similar to the line segment, but we don't have any endpoints on this line. We do have 2 points that are included inside the line, point A and point C. So I'm going to go ahead and write down those 2 points that are included on the line, point A and C. And to draw or to name a line, kind of like a line segment, we're going to put a line above. But since we want to show that this is a line and not a line segment, we're going to put the little arrows on the end of the line above the 2 points. So we would name this line right here line AC. So this is reading as line AC. So there you have it, a line, an endless straight path, and we can name it using 2 points that fall on that line. So the next term we're going to be looking at is a ray. So a ray is a part of a line with a single endpoint. So it's going to have 1 point that stops and 1 point that goes on forever and ever and ever. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a ray right now. And one of the endpoints, the single endpoint is going to be point B right here. And I'm going to go ahead and extend this line on here. And so since it already has one endpoint, this second part of a ray goes on forever and ever and ever. So if I label a point D, which falls on the ray here, we can actually label this ray. So hopefully you see that we have one endpoint right here, and then the other end of the line, or sorry, the other end of the ray goes on forever and ever and ever. So it continues on moving. So we can name this ray by naming the endpoint, B, and another point that falls on the ray, which in this case is D. And just like the line, segment, and line, we're going to put a little line above, but to show that this is a ray, we're only going to put an arrowhead on one end. So this right here we would read as ray BD, and this shows that it starts at B and the point D falls along that ray. So we have ray BD. All right, and the final term we're going to be covering today in today's lesson is an angle. So an angle is two straight lines that share an endpoint. And so we're going to be creating an angle here, or I'm going to be creating an angle here, that's going to be sharing the endpoint of line B. So I'm going to create another ray that comes out from point B. And since this is a ray, it's going on forever and ever and ever. And let's go ahead and put point E along that ray. And what we've done is we've created an angle. So now that I've created that second straight line, I can show the size of this angle by drawing a small little arc between the two lines that I've created. And that just lets me know that this is the angle right here that I'm looking at, where these 2 points meet. When we're naming an angle, we name it in a specific way. We start with one of the points that falls along one of the lines that creates the angle. So we'll put D first. Then the second letter is always our endpoint, or where the 2 lines meet. So we'll put B next. And then the third point that we need to include is a point that's on the second line. So in this case, point E. And when we're labeling an angle, we draw a small little angle symbol. It looks like this above the 3 letters that make up the angle. So we would read this as angle DBE. And so if I was following along, if I saw this labeled here, I could follow along and say, oh, well, this is going from D to B to E. And that shows what angle that I am looking at. So you could probably see some other angles here on our figure that we've just created, one of which might be angle CAB. So if we looked at this angle, it would be from point C going down to A, going down to B. So that's another angle we can see right there. We can actually see another angle as well if we were looking closely. You might notice that there's an angle ABD. And so if we were to label this angle, I'm going to do it in green. Start at A, go over to B, and then down to D. So this angle actually is about right here. Sorry, this was CAB right here. So lots of different angles within this figure here, but naming the angles is probably the trickiest part, is starting at one of the points, then going to the end point, and then another point along the second line. So there you have it, all the different terms related to angles and lines that we're going to be dealing with in today's lesson. So you should be able to answer all the questions in the Lesson 1 problem set. If you get stuck on any of these terms, though, you can come back and give yourself a quick refresher. So good luck on the problem set, and thanks for watching.